I've covered this in previous videos about how in order to be able to create a society, you need to channel human beings' sexuality. At the essence, sexuality equals reproduction, sexuality equals death. Sexuality exists, as we understand it, because you as a human, man or woman, will die. If you didn't die, you wouldn't need sexuality, would you? Because the purpose of sexuality at its essence is reproduction. So reproduction means you're going to die. That means all that generative power is there to recreate you, or a new version of you, or a new version of her. And everything that at the very foundation nature does is create systems in order to favorize, optimize survival. Community, survival. Growing food, survival. Hunting, survival. Building homes, engineering, basics, survival. All this to survive in order for the species to continue. That's the basic modus operandi of nature. And that requires sexuality to be channeled. Well, it's fundamentally channeled by nature because of death. Now, the evolution process is a complex one. I've covered it sometimes in my previous videos. I don't want to get into it. But let's say, for the sake of conversation, that there's a new mind that wants to take the animal of the human, this little dumb creature, and make it build its own kingdom or its own society. So how am I going to make this idiot and that stupid woman build for me? I have to condition their sexuality. I have to channel it. I have to constrict it. I have to affect the mind, make that person believe certain things, which are not necessarily false, because I'm going to kill you. So I'm going to create a story to justify why you're doing that, because if you don't do that, I'm going to chop your head off. The issue is that people think that humanity is free. People are dumb enough to actually believe that what we have today is the outgrowth of a so-called evolution. That once upon a time you were some kind of monkey, and the monkey evolved into this new modern human being, which is genderless, in case you didn't know yet. This is a lie. I don't buy into that. There's a whole level of engineering, and in order to be able to understand that engineering, you have to have an understanding of the occult, you have to have an understanding of the metaphysical realms, you have to have an understanding of how mind functions. And what's the relationship between the mind, its evolution, in regards to the human being? Which brings us to a primary lesion. I'm not getting into this right now. The point is, in order to create, build, generate, you need to channel the sexual energy. Let's take a beaver. The beaver creates an entire dam in a little river. You understand? This little shit, this little thing. This is no math, this is no fuck all. Creates a perfect dam in order to facilitate the way he hunts and eats and nourishes himself and nourishes his family or whatever his group or whatever he's involved with. So that takes a lot of power. Why is he doing this? In order to secure food, survival, in order to live long enough to fuck and reproduce. Is it not? So sexual power equals generation, generate, create, build. So that little beaver, his entire ingenuity came from the need to procreate. That means sex. So what now should I do if I want to use that genius, that creative power, in order to create my society, which has got nothing to do with your basic survival mechanism? You don't need this in order to survive. That's why these tribes have been living peacefully, let's say, to a certain extent. You understand what I mean? Simply, that's a better word, for thousands of years with very little, because you don't need much, especially if it's not cold. And why the hell would you live in a cold place in the first place unless you're insane or you're stuck there due to whatever happened on Earth, cataclysm and whatnot? Life is simple, right? So now if I want to build a system, a society, technically if I want to slave humanity and have people that work for me so that I can feed off of them, I need to channel their sexual energy. And how am I going to do that? By indoctrinating them into certain kind of mind frames that the mind controls the body. So if you indoctrinate somebody to be scared of a bell, then his body responds, his nervous system, all the way to his sweat respond to the bell. That's conditioning. They do that to dogs, they do that to you. We just said that's how they sell you fucking products that you don't need. Who fucking cares about Versace? Certainly not you or me. Maybe you do. Let's not. You understand what I'm trying to say? So that's how we channel or use sexual energy. We have to manipulate your mind. that then triggers your sexuality and puts it, you associate a belief to the sexual survival mechanism. You're channeling that creative intelligence. And by doing this, now that person, that idiot, that imbecile, that slave starts to work for you in the direction that you've prescribed. But originally, well, I told you, you just lived in a simple life. I don't want to minimize it, but you understand what I mean. You don't need all of this shit. Do you? You focus on, I'm going to hunt. Fuck your hunting. I need you to build an empire for me. That is literally what is spoken about in the Bible for any person who's able to understand. Except when we speak about such things, a lot of times they imagine it as it's mind. So when we say this is Lucifer's realm, well, you're the slave, but you don't know what Lucifer is or Satan. You can imagine it. If you've seen movies or you have an imaginative mind with a guy with corns that is there against you, it's like, no, this is his realm, which means you're the bitch. And he wants to build his empire here. Now, I'm speaking mythologically speaking, but it's not. Lucifer is a mind. So how the hell is he going to get you to do his bidding and build his empire? Why would you? You're simple. Does the beaver care about all this nonsense? It does his thing, is to live simple. Let's simplify and say human beings are basic creatures. Let's say a little more intelligent than a monkey, but still we live simple. We don't need much because you get everything you need, right? You have food, shelter, pussy. We're good. Security and the pleasure of being in the company of those you love. What at the end of the day do you need more than that? With all the money in the world, this is what the rich people do anyways. So there's a dare I say an external force. It's not external, but let's call it like this for the sake of conversation and simplify, that wants to hack into the human frame, which is under the influence of nature, and direct its efforts, which means its creative sexual power, in its prescribed direction, which has nothing to do with the well-being of the human being. Just look on Earth. It's very obvious. Does anything happen? Is anything that's actually happening? And don't be dumb and pretend that there are wonderful things because you need to live in positivity. I'm not in negativity. I just observe the facts. Well, everything that's happening and will happen is in the advantage of a few. Well, what does that say? Well, whoever these few are connected to whatever they are, and the rest of us, that means the billion of us, nobody fucking cares. You're a slave. That's what it says. You're in a fucking zoo. So it's in your face if you're not dumb. So they want to channel the energy of the animals, us, the human resources, to create their empire. That's what we're doing. Now, as long as you in your culture now has, let's say we from, I don't know, somewhere over there far away, okay? You've been living amongst your people for a long time. You have your little set and culture and beliefs, and the way you people, according to where you live, the terrain, the kind of food, the weather, the change of weathers, the kind of animals that live there will create your culture based on how your environment is, which are stories, your mythological, to hold, it becomes a seal. And that channels your sexuality in a particular kind of way, doesn't it? And for a person from the outside, it's like, that's kind of like weird. Barbaric is usually the word, because it's foreign. Because how they survive is different from here, because they're coming from totally different circumstances over thousands of years or hundreds of years or whatever. Now, I need to plug you into Americana, which ain't got nothing to do with you hunting, you swimming in cold water, you building boats, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Sing Uba Uba around a fire for 3 days? Nah. I need you to do Americana. I need you to do my bidding. So I'm going to come and break your world. And I'm going to give you a taste of that serpent. And the first weapon, bring them. Once upon a time, you know how they did it. They would send Jesus. They bring the missionaries, the Jesuits, and the Jesuits implant in your brain that there's a guy called Jesus who died on the cross for your sins, and he is the only Son of God, and God is his Father, and you are a sinner, you are a horrible person, and unless you believe in Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior, you will burn in hell. Now imagine an indigenous person, they ain't never heard of such a thing. And then you show them a quote-unquote superior power. It's superior in a way that we don't think of that. We've never thought of that. How can we think of that? Well, that's fucking impressive. You're insane. We call them the devil. Then you need to adapt, right? A lot of Islam's conquering was done, well, unless you convert, we kill you. So we're killing you. Or you're gonna convert. Which one is it? During the times where it was intense, right? In the early days. Well, people have to survive. And they adopt a new regimen. And that new mind code changes how they live. But first they were scared to die. Then we implement the new story, the new narrative that is held and maintained by fear, that now starts to trigger the sexuality in a particular kind of direction, which makes, well, those who are able to follow work in the name of that agenda. Nowadays, we don't need to send you religion. Ain't nobody want religion. We send you music. We send you movies. I'm telling you, music is the most powerful weapon or tool on earth. And now you have music with light, right? Videos, light and sound. So you got both of them together. Everything that everybody loves. Pictures, moving pictures with sound. You're fucked. It's over. You're an imbecile. You don't know anything. You haven't received a vaccine to become immune to this shit. You don't know, you don't even understand it. Your forefathers, your father, your grandfather, your uncles, your grandfather, they don't know how to, they don't have a vaccine for this. They've never seen this disease before. They don't know how to prevent you from getting the disease. And then they see you getting the disease and they're like, what are we going to do? That's it.